Once again, I'm Anushka Shukla. I'm a youth delegate for the World Women Foundation. I'm very honored to be here in Davos. I'm introducing our next session, the Now Moment of AI. Our moderator is Miss Whitney BAIRD. She's President and CEO of the United States Council for International Business. Please welcome Miss BAIRD and our esteemed speakers.
Good morning, everyone. Morning. That's what I'm talking about. Is this on? Can you hear me properly? Yeah. Excellent. We're really excited. I'm the president and CEO of the U.S. Council for International Business. We work with a number of U.S. companies, primarily multinationals that have a global interest and global presence. In the international economic policy space. And we're really delighted today to have several of our member companies represented here. And when we first started talking to Rupa about doing some panels, one of the things that came up, of course, is AI, because I don't know about you, but I can't go anywhere without AI being one of the dominant themes of really almost every discussion. But the point, I guess this is a personal point for me, is I often hear about these, AI governance, AI use, AI protections, but it's often talked about in future terms. And to me, AI is here. I don't know about you. If anyone who is using a phone, using a computer, AI is right there already. And what I find kind of humblingly is even no matter how tech adept I am, I find that there are a lot of challenges. And so we thought it would be really useful to come together today and talk a little bit about the AI moment that is now and what companies, either that are generators of AI or users of AI, are doing to skill up their workforce and look at this moment. I'm really thrilled to say our panelists today, MELIKE YETKEN KRILLA with Google, who is the head of international organizations. MELIKE, thank you for joining us. Deb Bowler from Dow, she's the chief information officer. And then Florian FLEISCHMANn, who with TalentNeuron is the global director of strategic workforce planning. Sorry, it's here as SWP, and I don't know about you. I can quickly get lost in acronyms. Just to note, and maybe set the stage very briefly, as we all know, as you have heard again and again, AI has the potential, and is in fact already, is driving productivity development. The WTO notes that AI could increase global GDP by 12 to 13% just by 2040. And studies show that productivity is a primary determinant of a country's standard of living. It leads to improved wages, stability, and career paths, fuels entrepreneurship and innovation, and drives demand for labor and creates new work opportunities. But the biggest obstacle to AI adoption is the lack of skills. Whether it's the need for AI specialist skills, but the complementary skills to employ AI, and that it's important for governments to partner with businesses to promote upskilling. So the focus of our panel today is how businesses are already ensuring that all workers can take advantage of AI. So first I'll turn to MELIKE. So what makes right now different from past tech waves like mobile or cloud? And how is Google responding to this moment by expanding connectivity to unconnected populations and scaling global upskilling efforts?
Great. Well, thanks very much for having me here today. We're going to play a little audience participation. What year do people think the first cell phone came out for the general public? Any guesses? There's no wrong answers, guys. Yeah, that's your reaction to check on AI. Okay, go ahead. 1990. 81, did I hear? Yeah, 83 is the right answer. So it came online, cell phones about 1983. What is the first year you think first smartphone came online for folks to be using? What year? Yeah, 2005, 2000, around. It was 2007. So we have a 25-year gap in the scientific evolution and advancement in mobile technology. Right now with AI, it is growing leaps and bounds, and I want to share a few examples. AI is not just a tool that you go to and use. It is a general purpose technology. It is a utility for every aspect of your life, from your kids' learning to making efficiency gains in your own work to how people are studying online to scientific advancements. At Google, one of the big breakthroughs we had is with AlphaFold, where our team developed a protein structure. I'm not a health professional, but what I've learned is that this protein mapping was given to the world and available now for researchers and academics to map proteins, and it is making incredible advancement in drug discovery, in cancer research, and is going to leapfrog, transform the way that we're able to eradicate certain diseases and how we look at healthcare overall. If you think of the 2.2 billion people unconnected in the world, we're engaging in that space as well. The advancements are incredible, and I'm happy to talk about that if you're interested. One last thing I want to talk about is Google Translate. Google Translate is an incredible tool. I hope you all use it, but the advancements have been incredible. We started off in about 2006 with 2 or 3 languages, just popping them online and seeing what happens. We have made a commitment now to 1,000 languages to ensure indigenous local languages are being culturally preserved and people are able to communicate in that. Right now, any guess how many languages are available on Google Translate? Yes, a lot. I can give you a number for a lot. It's 257 languages. 50% of those have come online in the last year alone because of the advancements of AI, and we've made a commitment to 1,000. So again, those are just a few of the examples I wanted to share with the group.
I think just from the perspective of cultural importance, the opportunity in Google Translate or in these models really to preserve potentially dying and truly obscure dialects and languages is really impressive, really leading to an increase in the canon of available information. That's I really like that. Just a quick follow-up to you is looking at what you have just said, what skills for all of us, what skills will be most important over the next 3 to 5 years to take advantage of this evolution?
I think first, in order to get people skilled, you have to address connectivity. So with 2.2 billion people in the world still unconnected to the internet, we got to address that issue first before we talk about skilling. And Google is doing our part to ensure this digital divide that we're seeing does not become an AI divide. And we're doing that through connectivity with 30 subsea and terrestrial cables throughout the world that are connecting large economies to smaller economies, especially in the global south. So we have an Umoja cable, Equiano cable that is going through Western Africa and connecting Europe to Africa. We have our Humboldt cable connecting South Africa to the Pacific Islands, and then the Umoja cable connecting South Africa to Australia. And why this is significant is it's going to contribute to the stat Whitney just gave that the WTO said that AI is going to transform, GDPs globally. We're already seeing a huge increase in GDP in places like Nigeria and Namibia where these cables have landed. And so it's exciting to see, and we're trying to do our part. And then just shifting to the AI skills building, there's a lot of things that we're doing to train people once they are online. But the key here is the augmentation. 60% of jobs are going to be augmented in one way or the other through AI, especially in the US. And so how we approach that augmentation in each sector and how we train people is going to be critical.
That's really interesting for me. As a diplomat, I spent a good bit of my early mid-career in working in Africa, in West Africa. And one of the things I would note going back to the mobile revolution is when I first started in the late 1980s, getting landlines in West Africa was incredibly expensive and really difficult. And what was fascinating is in the late 90s, in most of these countries, there was just simply a jump over. Forget landlines, they just went straight to mobile. And and quite effectively. And you would travel, wherever you would travel, frankly, you would see young people, older people, farmers, and others who had phones, whether they were smart or dumb. I mean, they had phones in their hand, the ability just to move past that. And so I think I just noting what you said about keeping the AI, the digital divide from becoming an AI chasm really will be really important, and appreciate what you said that Google is doing to try to take that on. So second, if I can turn to Deb. So AI workforce skills aren't just for the tech sector. So at Dow, how are you building an AI-ready workforce that directly improves manufacturing performance?
Yeah, it's such a great question, and hopefully I get to build on some of the points too from you. So just for context, Dow, just maybe not everybody knows what Dow does as opposed to Google. So in the world of Dow, we are a 128-year-old company. We have 36,000 employees, but we're a material science company. So we do a lot of chemistry and a lot of engineering, but we're in 170 countries. And in those 170 countries, we have 31 manufacturing facilities. So when we think about manufacturing on a global scale and the differences with our team members across the globe in trying to produce great products for our customers. So it's an interesting starting point is how diverse our employees are, let alone our products are. So I would answer your question in terms of AI and the workforce. For those 36,000 employees, we obviously have to inform them about how to do your job in a different way and augment, as you said, how do we use AI to augment? So first of all, I talk about digital literacy, and digital literacy in the actual manufacturing facility often happens differently than in an administrative office. So you have to think about how to take the literacy to them. Now, luckily, we have a lot of engineers in our facility, so there's already an aptitude. But I would highlight two examples for where AI is actually changing the way we manufacture. So in some of our facilities, we have very large, massive crackers. These facilities, one of them in particular, is larger than the island of Manhattan. So you have to think about massive facilities, millions of I/O devices. And so how do we use AI to learn how these actual crackers or furnaces are working? And without getting the specifics, you can understand that AI can help us understand the health of the system. So we're already understanding the complementary nature between AI, the physical asset, and the human who has to run the asset. So what we like to think about is our digital transformation is being led by people, but augmented by the technology and AI. So it's really an exciting part to see them increase our efficiency. And the second example I would give you is sometimes in these facilities, there's confined places. And we don't want to put people into these confined places because there's a risk. So we can use more technology and high-vis cameras with high resolution and AI to see what humans can't see in these confined spaces to increase safety. So we're excited about actually seeing millions of dollars of savings, saving human lives from having to go in places and spaces we don't want them to go. But we're moving our people from actual task doers to more digital directors. They're using AI to help us achieve the work, but it is not replacing them per se in these manufacturing roles.
Terrific, thank you. And it is, for me, I just think one of the most powerful aspects of AI is its, in a sense, ability to collate and search through just enormous amounts of information that would take any of us just hours and hours and days.
Yeah, impossible to achieve with the human. I mean, some of the mathematical equations we cannot achieve, right?
Terrific. Well, Florian, at TalentNeuron, you drive strategic workforce planning and track labor market shifts. And if I can just say by definition, AI is going to drive both of these things. Good business for you. What functions are being impacted by AI, and how can governments, companies, and individuals adapt?
Yeah, I guess if you look into AI from the perspective of where can you automate, so you might look into tasks that are quite repetitive, that happen very often. So these are the tasks that you see in administrative areas, be it purchasing, be it taking calls from customers, call centers. And these are the ones that companies focus on. And I guess in the past year, everyone has been playing around with AI and companies looked here and there what they can do for them. But I think it has taken now the next stage. And we have a very good example from the Industrial Revolution, right? So when the steam machine came in, not everything can be automated. So, you can automate car manufacturing, but still machines are not capable of folding a T-shirt right now, right? So, not everything that could be possible is possible right now. But for a lot of companies, it has worked out. So take the insurance companies now as an example from a global insurance company. So what they did is they took the customer calls for car damages. So if your car is broken, so an agent would take the calls from the customers. Another agent would start checking, does the customer, is it eligible to actually have that insurance coverage? The third agent would start calling a taxi to pick the person up. And the fourth agent would take off the administrative part. So these are examples where they, I think, taken 10,000 customer calls, and they've massively reduced the time that they can serve the customer. At the same time, it means in a lot of areas in the companies, we need less people. Whereas it's not necessarily bad, right? In a lot of industrialized countries, you have demographics, so you have a shortage of labor in the upcoming years. And this is where companies look into how can I actually reskill people. So in some areas, you need more people, in others, you need less. So that's one part where the companies, I think, need to be really transparent also with employees to say, look, we really need less people in this area, and we provide you a platform so that you can start reskilling there. And this is, I think, where also the individual comes in, because it's there. AI is an opportunity, right? So just a question, how many of you used AI to create an application and turn it into a business? Perfect. Wow, very nice. So everyone, and I just talked to a neighbor. Actually, she developed an app for motorcycle maintenance within a day, and she created a business. Now she is already making $1 million out of that business. So that's something that is possible. It doesn't require technology skills. It just requires creativity and, most importantly, also courage to take these topics. So this is why I think it has to come from many sides. It's just not just from the companies, but also from individuals to take that. And if you look into it, at the moment, is still quite of an imbalance in terms of what we as society will feel. So if you look into ChatGPT, I think 30% of the downloads there are from women, 70% of men. So that's something that we might want to look into, because AI is not evenly distributed and it doesn't create the same opportunities for everyone right now. But this is where, and this is where the last part, also governments come in, where you just need to build like a motorway to largely transform and upskill people into the topic of AI, what it can do for them. And also, last part, I think at the moment or in the past, we learned for 1 or 2 professions that we would take in our lives. This is something that will change. The pace is increasing. So that means we'll do 5 or 6 jobs. And this is where governments, and I think where we also have to get into the minds of people, that you need to get used to that thought that lifelong learning is one of the keys.
I really appreciate that. I do think one of the striking things in our conversation today, I often hear discussions of AI, and particularly effects on jobs and the workforce, is almost fear-based. The sense that it's going to destroy jobs or change. And I guess maybe for me, as an inherent optimist, I do like to think of AI being a tool to help us do our jobs better and more easily. But it is true what you were saying is that there will be jobs, I mean, there will be many functions where you need fewer people doing those functions. But I think maybe an area we can focus on is where there are new opportunities for new kinds of work based on AI. And maybe, MELIKE, if I can come back to you. So Google, as you have noted, and I think as we see broadly, is partnering to skill people globally. So what's the most effective model you've seen for scaling AI training, and what can make those partnerships work?
Well, first, we're seeing a transformation in search. People used to say, train me in coding, and now that's dramatically changed to teach me AI. And the bottom line is 60% of the world's jobs didn't exist 80 years ago. And so we think of AI in the workforce as jobs gained, jobs lost, jobs changed. And Google is doing our part for how are we training not only just the developing world, but the entire globe. And we're starting globally with our CEO on the floor of the United Nations announcing a $120 million global AI opportunity fund that has targeted 1 million people in underserved communities globally to train them in AI, to expose them to that, to teach the basic skills of AI and what it's needed. Additionally, if you are a consumer of AI, we have a Grow with Google program where you can go online and get a certificate. You take a several-hour course on AI essentials and courses in STEAM work globally. We're working with women. We've trained 100 million people now across the world that get these certificates. And not only that, then we're connecting them to employers as well. So it's not only just getting these certificates, but Google is helping get them employment in their local areas, et cetera. Then you think of cascading that down to the government level. For example, in the Global South, which is really important when we're talking about addressing the digital divide, we are working with governments on a game plan, specifically like an Africa blueprint on AI that looks at 3 pillars within government access. One is the youngest students and youth. How are we training the next generation of leaders so they're able to use AI in their everyday lives and it's more comfortable? 2 is practitioners, implementers, people in the workforce now in the government. How can we increase their efficiencies and boost productivity? And 3rd is the researchers, innovators, and entrepreneurs, and how are they using technology to best benefit people in that country? And then if you push down locally, we're partnering with organizations like the International Telecommunications Union to do AI skilling and robotics. That's with the will.i.am Foundation as well. And we're looking at students learning AI and robotics, particularly in Africa. So I can speak much more about this, but that's a snippet of global and local work that we're doing and how this AI augmented training and AI literacy is really benefiting everybody in the world to make sure that AI is accessible to every part of society.
Great, thank you very much. And maybe Deb, to you, so at Dow you're involved in the physical application of AI. But how do you partner with companies and with customers to move from isolated pilots to enterprise adoption?
Yeah, it's kind of a challenge. I'll try to pick on 2 things. So first of all, I mentioned a little bit of the furnaces and the predictability that we've worked on. We had a partner help us. They're C3 AI. They are here in Davos this week, so you'll see their building. And they're not paying me to say that, but they are here as a good partner. I should say that. But they have worked collaboratively with us. And so when you're emerging in new things, it's great to have a solid partner to work with. But then also we're working collaboratively to take that enablement, which we have, the new capability of AI in a very physical world, and helping others have it. So we work with a company called Univation and use that to maybe have others learn from what we've done. So it's a great partnership. And then just because MELIKE is here, I'm going to pick on something fun we're doing and very compelling and very timely to talk about here at Davos this week. So it's in the space of Google X and their wonderful AI capabilities and being a partner with us at Dow. And when we think a lot about the plastics that are in the world and how we want to recycle them, there are millions and millions of pounds of plastics that end up, they go to the recycler, but they cannot be recycled. And the reason they cannot be recycled is because the polymers don't interact with each other well. So your hard, rigid plastics, they get taken care of, but the soft multi-layer things, the bags, they are layers and layers and thin layers of plastic, and you can't readily identify them. So Google has brought to us some great AI capabilities with high-vis cameras that can understand and process thousands of pieces of items that are going by on a conveyor belt in seconds to understand what they are. We bring the chemistry to say the truth on the ground and to discern between what their tech sees and what we know them to be, to identify the different layers of the polymers used in those particular plastics. So the outcome of a partnership, to your question, is great insights and capabilities that we can't get ourselves, but also chemistry that isn't necessarily the remit of Google is helping us in this particular space of increasing circularity and doing something greater for the planet. And that has to scale, right? We have to find a way. So we've got pilots, we have a company called Circulus, and we're trying to take that, again, at a global scale.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
That's really encouraging. I have to say again, as a bit of an optimist, I do believe in the power of innovation and technology, frankly, to help us kind of crack the code on some key risks and issues. And frankly, if we can crack the code on plastics recycling in a real way, it would be just a tremendous benefit.
Yeah, we agree. And I think it's just really important, if I would build, Whitney, just for a moment on what you said about like the importance of finding the optimism in the moment. I don't think many people miss having switchboard operators, if you really think about it, right? And to your point about how many jobs have changed over time, we do see the same thing of where perhaps when we have new capabilities, we have new opportunities the human eye couldn't see that this tech will help us unlock, and there'll be greater opportunities in different spaces. And we hope recycling is just one of the many ones we get to participate in.
Terrific, thank you. And then Florian, since TalentNeuron, you're really dealing with the actual workers themselves, right? Policies for the workforce. Maybe you could share a little bit how TalentNeuron in Singapore look at a case study, how you're building AI skills across the workforce down to the individual level.
Yeah, maybe let me take one step back. So a friend of mine, he's a builder, and he is building roofs. What he had as an issue is he couldn't get enough people, qualified people who could do that job. So I showed him 2 years, or 1.5 years ago, ChatGPT, so how you can take a picture of a building, how it estimates what kind of materials it would need, also ordering that. So he started, and he's 55, by the way. So he used that, and since then he could double pretty much the quantity of orders that he could take, because he didn't have to rely on something that wasn't there, the qualified labor, but used AI. And that's something that we're talking about high-tech companies, right? Their access to technology is easy, but it's in a lot of places that we have in our economy where AI really helps. And this is where, for instance, Singapore, they have established a program that fosters lifelong learning and helps every single person in an economy to develop new skills and gives them access to that labor. And if you've seen from my friend, I just had to show him ChatGPT. He could, start using it. And it's a small barrier that really helps trigger and really helps people to use AI. Obviously, it's not for everyone, but all this process will help us, first of all, to do that reskilling that is really necessary, that AI will cause, and will also help then really individuals understand what it can help them. And yeah, as in this case, now he's doing double the number of orders that was just impossible before.
Great. Well, we have a little time left, and maybe if we could do just a bit of a speed round, and I'll go ahead and ask you all the question ahead of time, which is, I think, for all of us as we confront the development and employment of AI, I think it really comes back often to the questions of responsible and also the questions of human-centered AI development and AI deployment. And maybe if I could just ask each of you to talk about your own and maybe your company's commitment to the principles for responsible and human-centered AI deployment. And okay, Melike, I will start with you.
Sure, happy to take that one. Thank you. So at Google, we're really bold in our creations. And we have a number of engineers. We like to think big. We like to say, how can we cure cancer? And what can we do to advance health and education and wellness and translate and climate issues, and think creatively about all of that. But the important thing there is to think about how are we bold, but how are we also balancing that with responsibility? And in looking at when you are creating a once-in-a-generation technology that is transforming how people live, we take a really responsible approach to thinking about how is this looking how is it transparent? How are people using it? What is the ultimate objective? How are we consulting?